Hello everybody and welcome back to Exploring the Void. Now in today's mission we are going to visit the Mun. So far, just to recap what we've done. We've done our first flight, done our suborbital flight, gotten into orbit and visited Minmus. And now we are going to visit, this is going to be our visit to the first moon of Kerbin, but the second flight. We're going to go to another celestial body. So the reason why I did Mun second, because it's slightly harder to get to. It takes a bit more fuel because it is a bit bigger than Minmus. So in the VAB, obviously building our rocket that will get us to the Mun. It's gonna be nice and big, with sufficient fuel and thrust to weight ratio. Now let's just heads up, there's a few things I forgot to add in this one. I forgot to add landing gear or extra batteries. I don't have solar panels yet, and the batteries that Soviet style command pod has doesn't really have sufficient battery power. So we ended up if we kept on using power, we would have run out of power a long time ago. So just make sure for your one, if you are replicating this, add landing gear and batteries. So I chose that Soviet style command pod because I just thought they'd spice things up a bit, because all the other missions had the US style Mark 1 command pod and that. So this one will include the Soviet style as a sort of turn of events where Russia beat America to the moon. But in this case, it's going to be the Mun. So using nice orange skins, because obviously Russian style rockets are orange. And then using those engine plates instead of decouplers, because that allows us to have different size engines with different size fuel tanks, instead of using the engine designed for that specific size fuel tank, which is helpful, I suppose. But anyways, and another cool thing about those engine plates is you can change the number of engines you can attach to it. So you can have like four attach nodes, 4x1 attached nodes and that. And then also using those Russian style side boosters for a little bit an extra kick for liftoff. Now I just realized I used Reliant engines, which are slightly stronger than the swivels, but they don't have any gimbal, which makes this rocket rather flip happy. So I would definitely recommend that you use the swivels. I did realize that with the launch. And now, since we've got those fuel lines that makes it possible to transfer fuel, that fuel crossfeed tubes, which we're going to use for an asparagus stage rocket. So an asparagus stage means that the one fuel tank drains into the next fuel tank, then that fuel tank drains into the next, and then that fuel tank drains into the main fuel tank, which is theoretically the most efficient way to that, because as you go up, you shave off excess fuel and weight. Shave off excess weight, not fuel, because you're using that. But yeah, so the reason why it hasn't been used in today's rockets is because it's just so complicated. But luckily, the Kerbals know how to do this, and they've been doing it for a long time now. So they are happy with that. They know how to work it, and yeah. So that's that. And this spaceship's name is the Mooney Delta, I think. Yes, there you can see me typing it in. Now, I didn't use any launch clamps because the base is already nice and wide, and I didn't need any didn't need any structural lines because it's stiff enough. Don't need to make it any stronger than it already is, which is good. Now you can see the failed attempt with those Reliant stage engines, which I've, for your convenience, sped up quite a bit. So there you can see it, you just drop off the fuel tanks as you go, and then it starts flipping, and a reverted flight to vehicle assembly. To switch those Reliant engines for swivels, which have the gimbal, meaning you've got more control over where your rocket is pointing. So there, that's good. And now just arranging that staging stack to make sure that everything is satisfactory staging. And what happened? Okay, there we go, loading. And launch with those. There you can see the gimbal helping quite a bit. So my ascent profile is pointing 15 degrees once we've reached 250 meters per second, and then once we've reached 250 meters per second, about there, going prograde and just holding prograde for best aerodynamic abilities. And then just if it is a bit, I just basically look at apoapsis and my relative where I'm pointing and just decide how to, if I should point it up a bit, or yeah, so that. And then I aimed for 100 kilometer apoapsis, then warped near the apoapsis, and then started burning prograde to circularize around Kerbin, getting into orbits, which the Kerbals by now know how to do. And now I'll just got to set min as target so that you've got those target nodes, but usually you should get an encounter right away. And then making sure your periapsis is definitely above 10 kilometers above the min, otherwise you are at risk of crashing into the mountains. So yeah, so 10 kilometers minimum, but I usually go for 10 kilometers because that means you need less fuel to land because you're not as high. And thus when you do your retrograde burn to get to the min, you, yeah, sorry, I'm just rambling. I lost there. I lost track of what I was saying. Okay, but anyways, now we're gonna get ready for that burn initiated for translunar injection, and that cost us about, like, I think approximately just over 500 meters per second of delta V. But anyways, and now just fine tuning that, making sure that apoapsis, min periapsis is definitely above 10 kilometers, about there. I would recommend having, yeah, like I've said this before, but recommend having your min periapsis between 10 and 50 kilometers, not much higher than that, unless you're making a space station, which then of course it would make sense to have it slightly higher. And there you can see Bob Kerman, our scientist, going EVA, doing all the science and that, high over the min, and now he's going to do that again, low over the min, just to get maximum science over there. So you can see I've got that science storage unit to make sure that we can use the GUI unit and that Science Junior module multiple times. So you can see there's no decoupler between our re-entry module and that, because it comes with its own decoupler, and that's above the Science Junior module, but that's not a mistake. I deliberately did that because you don't need to lug that entire Science Junior module. I did that on the Minmus mission 2, which it's just extra weight and extra risk when re-entering Kerbin. Now, not talking about what's going on screen, I just circularized at the min and warped to the point where I want to do that retrograde burn. So at this point I haven't switched off electric charge or made the reaction wheels any didn't didn't do anything to those reaction wheels because we still had the lower stage transfer stage which had an alternator. So as the engine was active, it gave us electric charge. So the Terrors unfortunately don't have that. So yeah, just remember landing gear, because otherwise you've got to use the SAS unit to keep you upright, and that drains your batteries very quickly. So remember landing gear. Unlike me, I was rushing through this. Since I've started my YouTube channel, I really haven't played KSP for fun, which I really want to get back to because I'm very behind. Sorry for not posting on Friday, the 24th. Yeah, sorry for not posting then. I'm just really for time. Sorry. Get ready for that Duna mission, our first interplanetary mission, which is going to be maybe sometime next week, like Wednesday or something. But yeah, get ready for that and be excited, because if you're not excited, I'm going to be very upset. You are going to hurt my feelings. And there you can see me I've landed now. I've rambled again. Sorry. So doing science, landed at the Mun, and Bob is going to go EVA. I would have liked having all my Kerbals go EVA and then having a nice cinematic flag plant. Fortunately, we're very pressed for time because that SAS unit is chowing our batteries just bad. And there you can see Bob planting the flag of Kerbin, then naming the site after the place where we've landed, the biome, which is Mun Lowlands, just so that we know for future missions where we've gone and which science we have attained. Now just restoring that Science Junior module and goo modules, and then boarding and getting ready to get back to Kerbin. So as you see up there, electric charge when I was landed was like 45, and now it is 3. And yeah, it's going down. Sorry, 2.34. So yeah, so you know what I mean by it chows your battery. So I would recommend including batteries and landing gears. I've said that for the don't know how many times. I've stopped counting, probably like 5 times already, just to make sure that when you do your Mun mission that you remember those landing gears, because that's very important, very, very important. And just make sure that your rocket isn't too top heavy, otherwise it's gonna flip over. Though you may have seen like yeah, never mind. Anyways, now you can see me burning to get back to Kerbin. Somehow I landed perfectly at a point where I could easily and quickly just take off, burn, and get back to Kerbin without having to get into orbit first and then initiate the Kerbin getting out of Mun sphere of influence. Now my ascent profile for Mun was very, very shallow, so I had to burn radial out a bit just to make sure I didn't crash into any terrain, making our Kerbals die. So yeah, and unless you're fooling about with your Kerbals and deliberately want to make them die, usually around the KC, not randomly going to Elu and then trying to do stuff, because then if something goes wrong, you went all the way there and then and then problems occurred. Anyways, now you can see me warping. We've entered Kerbin's atmosphere. Now you can see I haven't got a heat shield on that because it's got its own ablator, which is cool. And there's some lovely fireworks as we re-enter. Now I've turned off SAS deliberately because those Soviet-style re-entry modules don't have any reaction wheels, hence why I added a reaction wheel, just to make sure that we did in fact have some control for when the engine was not on. But as you can see, the drag created by that science storage unit and the goo modules and all the science modules up there attached to it made sure that the rounded end was, so it made sure that it didn't go flippy and overheating. So some temperature gauges did appear, and I was a little scared that it would explode, killing Jeb, Val, and Bob. But anyways, it didn't, and there you can see the drogue chutes and that main chute deploying. So drogue chutes just set to deploy whenever they can, and then at 2,500 meters above the surface fully deploy. And that main chute, I made it deploy at 1,000, but then thought, nah, let's just make the re-entry for the Kerbals, the glide down for the Kerbals a bit quicker. So anyways, there we've recovered the vessel, and we have got 742 science. Obviously a little less than the Mimus mission, because I think the game registers as farther away from Kerbin equals more science. So they're just warping to the morning just to make sure that nice sunrise. And now at the R&D center, we're going to research all that stuff. I got some bigger fuel tanks and some more engines and nuclear propulsion, which is going to help with our interplanetary transfer. So that's good, because they are very, very efficient, although with a very, very low thrust to weight ratio. So there we go, and thank you guys for watching this KSP video. Please like and subscribe once again, and goodbye, see you in the next one.